Hi guys, I'm Jodi, Book Fanatic. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to talk about all of the books I managed to read in September. I also feel like I should address the color of my hair for a moment. I was planning on dyeing it grey. I really want my hair to be grey for a long time, but I couldn't go from my darker hair color to grey immediately, so for now I will be blonde. So if you think there was a huge change between the last video and this one, it is because of the hair color going on. Let's dive straight into the books. The first book I managed to read during September was Immortal Ring, which is the sixth and final book in the Fallen Kingdom series by Rhodes. I rated this one 3 stars. I thought it was better than the previous books I've read, and I quite liked the finale. I am glad I managed to finally wrap this series up, because I haven't really liked it since the first book. I was invested in the plot, I just didn't really like everything else around it, and I just wanted to know how this all would end, the author would work it all out. And she managed to do that quite well. I rated 3 stars. It wasn't terrible, but I am definitely glad I finished this series. The first book, Fallen Kingdoms, follows these 3 different countries, all following different characters. It's a multi-perspective series, and you get to know all of these characters throughout the books. There are character deaths, there is really a lot going on. Wars, raging tyrants, and a lot of love blossoming and all that kind of stuff. I think a lot of people liked it. It just wasn't really the series for me. I am finally done with it and I can move on to a better series from now on. The next book I read is one I really liked, and that is Leah on the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli. This is a second book in the Simonverse or the Creekwood series. The first book being Simonverse the Homo Sapiens Agenda. I liked Simonverse the Homo Sapiens Agenda. I wasn't that big of a fan of it, and then I watched the movie Love, Simon, and I really loved that one. So that made me want to pick up Leah on the Offbeat, and I rated this one 4 stars. I really like Leah. This book is about her, and she's a fat bisexual teen, and it follows her story and her falling in love with a girl for the first time, really. And her dealing with her family and going to college and all the good stuff. You also see Simon and his boyfriend in here and all of the other characters from the previous Simon book. And this is the last book in the series. I believe Becky Albertalli wasn't planning on writing any more books in this series, but I think this was a really good sequel, and I quite like how it all wrapped up. Although I did want more books from the characters in this series. I actually looked up if there were going to be more books because I wanted more from these characters, but sadly there aren't going to be any more books. I do hope this one gets a movie adaptation, just like Simonverse Homo Sapiens Agenda, because I do think it deserves it, and I really want to see Leah end up with the girl she falls in love with. Then the next book I also rated 4 stars, and that is Geekerella, which is the first book in the Starfield series. It is by Poston, and the second book is going to be called The Princess and the Fangirl. This one is about a girl called Elle, and she works at this vegan food truck with a green-haired girl, and it's obviously a Cinderella retelling. She has an evil stepmother and 2 stepsisters, and this story is all about Elle falling in love with this guy she doesn't really know. She's texting him, but she doesn't know who is behind the texting, and the guy who is behind the texting is actually the guy who is cast for the new Starfield movie, which Elle is totally crazy about. She doesn't really like the casting, so that is kind of funny, her falling in love with this actor and not really liking him for her Starfield adaptation. She's planning on going to this con in another state, and she can't really go because her stepmom isn't allowing her to go, but she, in this book, is trying to manage to go anyway by saving up and creating her own costume and that kind of stuff. This is really a book all about fandom. Poston is a huge fangirl herself, and I really like this, and I can't wait to see what the princess and the fangirl is going to be about, because it is about a side character in this book, like a minor side character. The synopsis sounds great as well. It's about a movie star switching lives with this normal girl because they look alike and they fall in love with each other's lives, and it sounds absolutely amazing. And I am wondering, because it does take place during this book, I think if the switching already happened in this book, that would be totally crazy, and I would really like to see that actually. Then I read a book by one of my favorite authors, which is How to Be Bad. It is by Lockhart, Myracle, and Sarah Mlynowski. I rated this one 3 stars. It is a road trip book. The 3 authors each write their own perspective. Two of the girls are best friends and one of them is new in the group, and they all go on this weird road trip experiencing all of these different things, falling in love, growing closer, also fighting a lot. It is really a book about friendship and I really like that about it, but I'm really a fan of one of the perspectives. One of the perspectives is a very Christian girl and she is all high and mighty about it at some points, and that was kind of annoying to me sometimes. One of the other girls is very stubborn. They are going on this road trip for her to meet up with her boyfriend who went to college in another state. She's still in high school at this point. She misses him a lot. He hasn't texted her in a while and they all plan to go on this road trip to see him, and she is very stubborn, very independent, and she clashes a lot with her best friend who is the Christian girl. And then there's a third girl who is very sweet and falls in love during this road trip with a guy, and just a lot happens. A lot of secrets are being revealed and I really like this, but it definitely wasn't my favorite book by Lockhart by any means. Then I read the second and final book in the Warcross duology, and that is Wildcard by Myracle. I love this book. This book was my favorite book in this duology and it definitely made this series one of my favorite series of all time, and it also definitely confirmed that Myracle is one of my favorite authors at this point in time, because Wildcard was just amazing. If you don't know what Warcross, the first book, was about, it is about a girl called Emika Chen who gets flown off to Japan by the creator of this game called Warcross after she accidentally glitches herself into the game, and then she has to spy for the creator of this game to find out if someone is trying to hack the Warcross championships. And that's really what the first book is all about. I can't really tell you more because I don't want to spoil you for this whole series, but this series is so much more than the synopsis of the first book. Especially the second book revealed a lot of secrets, and it was such an emotional ride for me, which I did not expect. At the end of the first book there was a cliffhanger and you kind of find out who the real bad guy is in this whole situation, and then the second book just expands upon that and the book just humanizes everyone. It has very complex characters, it has amazing writing. I really love the world building in this series as well, and I just really love this, and I cannot wait to see what Myracle will come out with next, because I have no clue what she's writing currently, and I cannot wait to read it. And then the last book I managed to read in September is My Plain Jane by Cynthia, Jodi, Meadows and Brodi, Ashton. I rated this one 4 stars. It is the second book in the My Lady Janie series, and honestly, I like this one less than I like My Lady Jane. I love the humor in My Lady Jane. It was super funny. I giggled a couple of times, but this book didn't really make me laugh at all, and I did rate it 4 stars because that is just how it turned out. I have a rating system based on plot, characters, writing and world building. I did like this one less than I liked My Lady Jane, but these books are all written as standalones. They're all about a different Jane. The first book is about Lady Jane Grey back in England, who was the leading lady there for 6 days until she got beheaded. And then the second book is about Jane Eyre, who is a character in the book Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. And Charlotte Bronte, the author, is a character herself in this book. I can explain to you what this book is about because it relates in no way to My Lady Jane. My Plain Jane is about basically the synopsis of Jane Eyre, but it has a Ghostbusters kind of element to it. Our Jane can see ghosts, and she isn't the only one. There is a whole society who can see ghosts, and this society is trying to recruit her because she is a beacon, and a beacon is someone that ghosts are attracted to and listen to and that kind of stuff. But Jane doesn't want anything to do with this society. She becomes a governess, and Charlotte and the society go after her, and it's also about Charlotte Bronte writing a book about Jane, and you really see what really went on while she was writing the book. And the book really wasn't a perfect reflection of what really went on with Jane. It was a work of fiction. Obviously, this whole book is really fiction. It isn't how Charlotte Bronte really lived. Jane Eyre is very much a fictional work, but I really liked how these 3 authors came upon this idea and worked it out. And I really like the story, and I will definitely want to read the 3rd book, which is going to be called My Calamity Jane. I don't know anything about Calamity Jane, and I liked it very much because I have read Jane Eyre, and that kind of ruined the book for me because I knew the plot very much already. So reading My Plain Jane was kind of boring for me at some points because it was very much like Jane Eyre. I like My Lady Jane because I didn't know anything about Lady Jane Grey, and I don't know anything about Calamity Jane, so I think I will like the third book more than I like My Plain Jane. So we'll have to see about that because it comes out next year, so I can't really say anything about that yet. But these were all of the books I managed to read in September. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books and what did you think about them, or what did you read in September? I would love to know. Thanks for watching. Goodbye!